by ChoiceCenter Leadership University is where emotional intelligence meets extraordinary results. Founded in 1998 in Las Vegas, ChoiceCenter has empowered thousands of people around the world to unlock their full potential through experiential trainings and coaching. Here on EQU, we dive into the inspiring stories and transformative journeys from both famous faces and everyday heroes. Graduates who have harnessed emotional intelligence to have transformed their lives in ways that are nothing short of remarkable. From skyrocketing their careers to deepening relationships, balancing creative pursuits with focusing on health, finances, and family. Our guests share the real-world impact of EQ on living a life you author and love. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and equipped with insights that can serve you to create radical results in your own life. If you're ready to dream, declare, and deliver, let EQU show you what's possible.
Hello, listeners. Just a quick note before we dive in. Today's incredible conversation with Phuong Huynh is so moving, powerful, and inspiring, we've decided to share it in two parts. In this first episode, we'll explore Phuong's childhood escape from Vietnam. Following the Vietnam War, approximately 2 million Vietnamese people fled the country, seeking freedom from the communist regime between 1975 and the early 1990s. Around 800,000 escaped, as Phuong's family did, in the dark of night by sea, often enduring life-threatening journeys, pirate attacks, starvation, and harsh conditions in refugee camps before resettling in countries such as the United States, Australia, and Canada. Today you'll hear about Phuong's incredible escape, the challenges she overcame, and the lessons she learned along the way. And next week, we'll dive into Phuong's professional success, how she's applied emotional intelligence to her leadership style, and the insights she's gained from her experience at ChoiceCenter. Please enjoy this unforgettable conversation that will remind you there's truly no challenge the human spirit cannot overcome. Welcome to another episode of EQU. I'm Corinne Clement.
And I'm Robin Williams at ChoiceCenter Leadership University. And we've spent nearly 3 decades transforming high achievers into unstoppable leaders through the power of EQ. Today on our show, we have a graduate from 2014 whose story will keep you on the edge of your seat and inspire and motivate you to overcome obstacles and accomplish the seemingly impossible.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this conversation for weeks. And before we dive in, a quick ask: if you're loving the insights and inspiration on EQU, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to make sure you never miss an episode. And if something in today's conversation resonates with you, pay it forward. Drop us a 5-star review, share this episode with a friend, and follow us on social media. Every review and follow helps spread the EQ movement to more people who are ready to step into their greatness.
Today's guest is someone whose journey defines resilience. Phuong Huynh's life is a testament to what's possible when grit meets growth. At just 7 years old, Phuong escaped Vietnam as a refugee and endured the unthinkable. 18 days floating on the open sea, where she witnessed the abduction of her mother by pirates. She then lived for months in refugee camps and eventually made her way to the east coast of the United States. A truly self-made superstar. Phuong earned her Bachelor's of Science and now calls Silicon Valley her home, where she breaks boundaries as an engineer in the tech industry.
Phuong currently serves as a senior VMware visualization engineer at Zoox, where she masterminds robo-taxis, those little driverless cars with all the cameras you see maneuvering up and down the strip. Today, we're unpacking Phuong's life story, gleaning wisdom from how she turned adversity into an advantage, how her EQ training at ChoiceCenter catapulted her success, and how she's sharing the leadership lessons she's learned along the way with others and inspiring them to overcome life's obstacles. This is a must-not-miss episode. Phuong, welcome to EQU.
Well, thank you. That's a huge introduction. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm happy to be with both of you.
Your origin story is remarkable. It's really unfathomable. And I think you were about 7 years old when you experienced the world in all of its darkness and challenges in ways that some people never have to face over a lifetime. Share with us where you grew up and what was going on in your country as a child, and what important decision your parents made to protect your family.
I was born in, Saigon, and I was born right after the Vietnam War. So my dad, he fought, against the communists. So for him, losing the war was losing freedom, and we didn't have any freedom left once the communists took over. And so my brother at that time, my brother was he was 15, so he was getting to an age where he has to go to the army, the communist army. And so my dad didn't want my brother to go into the communist war. So we tried to escape the first time, and we got caught. So when we got caught trying to escape the first time, he got taken into a re-education camp. And so they torture him pretty much for a year. He only had like one yam to eat, and he had to do all the labor work and barely could take a shower. So they let him out a couple seconds out of the day to just have like, he told me the story, like 3 scoops of water real quick into this pond, and then you got to get out. And so that's their shower. And so he went through that, and he came back home. He didn't want to escape anymore because he got tortured for a year. But my mom really was the one that's, pushing him to give us like an opportunity, a chance of life, freedom somewhere else, and not having to live this life where everything was illegal. You couldn't have your own business. They took everything they wanted, or money or a car or whatever. And so even for me, when I was born, she didn't have enough milk for me. So what they did was they give out vouchers for you to get powder milk. But my dad was telling me the story where when she went there, they squeezed her breast to make sure that she didn't have milk and then give it the voucher, So I pretty much grew up not having enough milk or nutrients, and she didn't want us to have that kind of lifestyle, you know what I mean? And to have to go through that. So I think she pushed my dad a lot to take the chance, take risks, right? And then that's why my dad finally agreed, and he said, okay, he'll do it. So he met this person in the re-concentration camp, and he lives out in the country. So they start planning out the escape because they had to have enough money to buy a boat, and then we had to go down there and know the routes to get out in the dark because you can't do it in the daytime. So they planned the whole escape in the middle of the night because everywhere you go, you got to tell the police or that region where you're going. So it's not like here, if I want to go to Vegas, I got to get into the police office and tell them, oh, I'm going to go to Vegas at this day. And when I get there, I got to check in. So there's no freedom in Vietnam at that time. So anyways, we sneak out in the middle of the night from, from the city to the country. And then from there, we stay a little quiet in the dark, like for a couple of days, and then we sneak out in the middle of the night. So anyways, that's how we end up escaping. But it was because really we wanted that freedom that the U.S. had, So ever since I was little, I knew that America was the land of opportunity, the land of free. And that's like living my dream, is that I get to be free.
And what year was this that this was happening?
When we left was 1982.
And you said it was your dad that had tried to escape earlier.
Our whole family, my dad and all of us. I think in 1980, that's the first attempt. And then he got, kind of locked up for like a year. And then he came back and then start planning maybe for another year. And then we left again. So our whole family went actually the first time too.
Phuong, how do these escapes, how do you plan? What did that take?
Well, I hear from my uncle that he had to go down to the country and be on the boat and be one of the locals because you can't just stand out. People will tell on you. They know you're from somewhere else. It's a small country town, so people know who people are. So you got to blend in. And so the reason why he's blending in is because he's out in the boat. He had to go and see the route of how to get out in the middle of the night because, in the daytime you can see, but at night it's so dark. And how do we maneuver out through the river to the sea? And then from the sea, that's when we, go towards the international water. And then once we pass the international water, then they can't take us back. But before that, they can actually arrest us and bring us back.
So did you have other family that had successfully done this before, or how did you know how to do this?
Yeah, so that's part of the planning is my dad, he had to, look at the map and see how do we get out of Vietnam into Thailand or Malaysia, because that's where the refugee camp is. And so just studying that and studying what stars to look at in the middle of the night, what's the North Star, and how do we go from the North Star to where we need to go. So he was doing all the studying, and then he met another person that supposedly say he knew how to do all those things too, and get him on board with us so that we know what to do when we're out there, because we've never done it before. We plan a lot of things, like we plan having people come and deliver the food to us before we leave, but it doesn't work out. So they took our money and then they didn't bring it. So we waited for them. And so we didn't have, enough food supply because, the people that promised us they're going to do it, they didn't deliver. And what are we going to do? We can't tell on them, right? So it was just, okay, we got to move on and just go.
And how many people were there on your boat, and did you all know each other?
Yeah, so it's like my family, my grandma, my grandfather, and my uncles, and then our family, my cousin, and then their people that they know that wants to go, that our family, extended family, and then my of course my dad's friend, that they planned that together, and his side of the family. And so there's 30 of us that jump on this little boat and sneak out in the middle of the night.
And what do you remember about that as a kid? Was it exciting? Was it scary? What were your emotions that evening?
I didn't know what to expect. I was just a little kid, so we got to spend in the country with the, I don't know what you call it, but the bug that lit up at night.
Lightning bugs?
Lightning bugs?
Or a firefly?
Firefly, yes.
Firefly?
So then we got to chase them because we never got to do it, like the days that we were there. So I guess we just sneak out at night. We know we're supposed to be quiet, and we wanted to bring our dog, and he's like, no, you can't bring our dog. What do we know? We just know we want to bring our dog with us. And so be quiet and just go on, kind of like a boat ride. We didn't know any better.
Did you have any sense of where you were headed and how long it would take to get there?
Nope, we didn't know anything. I mean, my dad planned it for a certain amount of days, but we didn't know what to expect, really. Everything was a mystery.
So you push away from the shore in your boat and you take off, and then what happens?
So then we went, and everybody was quiet. It's dark. We're going through the river to get to the sea. And then I don't know when we end up out in the sea, but we got chased by like the communists, and we went as fast as we can. And I think somehow the engine ended up dying, it didn't work anymore. And so there was 30 of us. So of course, I think it was working super hard, and it died. So we had a spare, but the spare, I don't know how long it lasts us, and they chased us. I remember somehow that, maybe there was a shot or something, but I'm not sure. But then we got lucky. We got outside into the international water, and then the second spare engine died. So now we have no engine. And so we kind of let go because they're no longer chasing us because we're out in the international water. And so my dad, with his planning, learning how to look at the stars and the map and the compass, we just kind of drift to the direction where we think we're going, which is Thailand or Malaysia for the refugee camp. And so we just drifted, but we didn't have enough supply, like what I was sharing with you earlier, food supply. So I remember there was time when we didn't have any water. And so we had coconut, those young coconut, but then we drank all the juice. And so there's nothing left. And so I remember peeling the peel and actually sucking on that peel to keep us hydrated. I think it was just being resourceful of what we had. And someone had an idea of cooking the seawater and making it into water. So we collected the steam and then make that into water. And so because we were out there for so long that we ran out of water, we ran out of food. So we were very limited. Everybody's eating. So we eat only a little bit of like rice, and we make it into porridge, and it's just enough for us to survive because we don't know how long we're going to be out there. We ran out of food. So we fished for the jellyfish to eat. There was times when my dad, he's like, so proud of us because, I guess we weren't scared that we're going to die for some reason because we jumped into the water and, we have a shower. So we jump into the water and swim in the water, it's like, and just
Swimming with the jellyfish.
Yeah. We just, we jumped into the water and swam and then, came back in the boat.
How many days did you end up being out there, and what else were some of the things that you experienced?
I was just darkness. I remember, this daytime, we would see the waves going up and down, but at night it's nothing but darkness and the stars, and that's it. And it was really peace and quiet being out and just waiting to see land, because we don't know when we're going to see land. I think at one time we actually, right before we got robbed, there was a bigger boat that came, and they actually gave us food. it was a bigger boat. So they actually threw food for us and gave us some supplies. And after that, maybe like 5 hours or maybe half a day later or something. But I remember that's when we got robbed.
You got robbed. So how far into the journey was that, and who robbed you?
So I think that's probably like 2 weeks into the journey where we were passing Thailand. Well, we didn't go any too far too fast because we were just drifting through. But there was a group of fishermen, and I remember there was 2 boats. But then when I was talking to my brother a couple of years ago, because he doesn't, for him, he doesn't talk about it. His friend doesn't know that, what happened to my mom. He doesn't talk about it. All these years, we didn't talk about it really. So I had an opportunity to talk to him, and he said there was 8 boats that actually surrounded us in a circle. And then 2 came onto our ship because that way it were surrounded. No one know that we were getting robbed, because they circled up and they surrounded us. And then when they robbed us, no one knew about it. And so there's 2 boats that came onto our ship and they have weapons. We just did what they were told and they took whatever they want. Because usually, we bring gold with us. All the Vietnamese people who escaped Vietnam, we bring gold because we know that that's wherever we would go, we can convert that into money. And so they robbed us, and knowing that we always have gold. And then they took the woman. They ended up taking, my aunt, which is my mom's younger sister, my cousin, and then, a 12-year-old girl that was developed, and then my mom. So my mom, I remember she was like the last one. She was hiding behind all of us because we're all sitting, and she was hiding behind, but they said to move over one at a time. So when they move over, they saw her and they took her. And that was the last time I ever seen her. I mean, we couldn't do anything about it because they had the weapon, and so we just let them, take her.
Didn't really have any choices. Do you remember what you were experiencing, Phuong, during that time?
I don't remember it back then. I just knew that they took her, but I just knew there's nothing. I couldn't do anything about it, And so I guess it was more like hopeless because, all I had to do was witness her, and I couldn't do anything about it.
What an amazing experience for a child to live through. I cannot even imagine. And I'm starting to understand deeper than I have why you are nonstop in creation. You live life to the fullest. You're one of the most active, be a part of everything. You're the source of a lot of things getting started, and you have an incredible work ethic. And I'm sitting here listening to you thinking, of course you do. Now it all kind of makes sense.
So Phuong, that it just has to be one of the most heart-wrenching things as a kid to witness that. And I'm sure it's probably the lowest point anyone can imagine. You're out here, fighting for your freedom, and then that happens. And so you said that was about 2 weeks in. How much longer after that were you at sea? And then how did this end? What happened next?
Yeah, so they robbed us and then they let us go. And we just drifted again. But this time we drifted for maybe a day or something. And then we start seeing this little light. When the wave comes up, it disappears, but then it comes down. Then you see it again. It's like when you light up a lighter, but it's a little flame out of nowhere in the middle of the night. And so I think my dad and all the guys, they decided they're going to break the side of the boat, and make it into a pedal and go towards that direction. So at nighttime, that's what they do. And I was talking to my uncle because he came with us, and he said, yeah, in the daytime it was so hot that because we're in the middle, Thailand is tropical, so it's really hot. So they would sleep in the daytime, and at night they would pedal to go towards where the light was at. And we didn't know what it was, we just know that's maybe land. And so we went, and every night, I think for the next 3-4 nights, they would pedal, and the flame got bigger and bigger as we got closer, because now we can see it, but the wave didn't obstruct it anymore. So it got bigger and bigger. And then next thing you know, we were there. And then when we got there, it was an oil refinery, come to find out. And so lucky us, the boat from the oil refinery came around and circled around us, but then it took off. So we're like, well, how do we get them to come back to save us? What do we do now, right? Because it's just the oil rig out there in the middle of the water, so it's not land. And somehow we got lucky because I think there was a big storm coming. And so they decided to circle back and saved us. And so we end up getting saved into the boat because that's not their job. Their job is not to go and save people who escaped Vietnam. We just got lucky because after they picked us up, there's actually a huge storm that came. And I think our angel was watching over us because I don't know if we were going to survive that storm. And so Captain Barry, he saved us, he picked us up. And so I think he was one of our angels that helped us to bring us to the U.S.
You talk about him often when you're sharing parts of your story. What stuck with you about that captain?
It's like he was our savior. Like when you're out in the water for days and don't know if you're going to make it, it was like, wow, it was someone that came and rescued us. And we were so blessed and thankful. Every time I think about him, I'm very thankful for him saving us. Because if he didn't, we wouldn't have maybe not make it. So, I feel very blessed in that sense. But, I remember there was this one picture that I have. He's holding me. But when we first came, my grandma was feeling really sick. And she said, can you go and get the medicine? Ask for medicine. I don't know how to speak English, So I came and I went into his cabin where he was sitting at it because he's the captain, right? So I went, so I know sign language, so I'm like, right, medicine. But it's so funny. He gave us Coke. He gave us a can of Coke.
That could be medicine. Yeah. My goodness.
It was so funny. But then we drank it because we were like, okay, right? I can't get medicine. I don't know what to do.
Goodness.
Yeah, did they feed you? What was it like? And, it is remarkable. You do have these photos that he took that really document you guys being rescued and all arriving there. So tell us about that experience. Did you eat right away? What happened?
I don't remember us eating. I just remember us drinking that Coke. But he took us because we were way off track where we were supposed to be. We passed Malaysia. And so in order for him to save us, he actually had to sink our boat. And so what he did was he picked us up and then he said, we're going to take us to Malaysia where the refugee camp is. But what he did was he had to pull the boat and then poke a hole into it until it starts sinking and then cut the tie. So that way he can save us. But I don't remember us eating. I just remember maybe he just took us to the refugee camp. I don't know how many hours it took, but
You went on their boat? They took you on their boat?
Yeah, because their boat was huge. And so what you saw the picture, we were on their boat. And you saw our picture, of the little boat. It was like he was dragging it, but it's so tiny compared to their boat. So they work for the oil company, but he's out there and there's a lot of Vietnamese people who got lost like us. So he ended up his career over like 11 years. He ended up saving about 1,000 plus Vietnamese family, that escaped and got lost like us. And even though that's not his job, he did it,
Is Barry?
His name is Barry. And he lives in England. And luckily, my dad kept contact. He kept his address, or when we came to the U.S., he was able to reach out to him and still keep that communication connection with him.
Is he still alive, huh?
No, he passed away a couple of years ago. He had cancer and he passed away. My sister was talking to him a lot because she wanted to write a book to honor him. And she has it, but she hasn't published it yet. So I can't wait for it to come out.
I remember one Father's Day, we were all together, you and I and a whole bunch of our friends. I don't know where we were. And you were celebrating him that day in addition to your dad.
So Phuong, this hero, Captain Barry, puts all 30 of you on the boat and he takes you to where, Malaysia?
In Malaysia, back then, they had refugee camp open for all the Vietnamese people, or not just Vietnamese. There's Cambodians or Laos people that actually escaped their country too, because of the communists took over their country as well. So it was open for all of us to escape and be having housing and support from there. And then that's where we get sponsor. So you have to go there and then wait and put in application to get sponsor. And in order for us to go any country, we got to be sponsored. So we got lucky because my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family, both my dad's side has his two sisters that's already in the US. And then my mom's side, they're in California. And so they were already there, so they could, sponsor us. But we just had to go through the process to get sponsored and then wait, make sure that we're healthy and then go through that whole paperwork. And there was a little island that we first come to. So for 3 months, we're on this little island where they onboard us kind of like. But it was really nice because we get to be at the beach. And the beach was, I remember the water is really nice, but it has a lot of those corals. But they would fish and they have this swordfish, it's huge. And they would bring it in and sell it to people inside the camp. And so it was like really nice. But then once we moved from there, we went into the mainland and then we stayed there for another 3 months. And then they processed us and we got to wait. So we just stay there and waited until we get accepted. And once we're accepted, then we go to the Philippines and we stay there for another 6 months until we get processed into coming to the U.S. And it was really nice because I get to experience the Philippines too. Have you ever been in the tropical place where you get to see the rain? It comes before you get there. Yeah. So I get to watch the rain, coming from the mountain and then coming towards us. It was really nice to experience that, or go to the waterfall and hang out in the waterfall.
When you're talking about this, you're glowing. It's amazing. And so you go from where you get rescued and then you're in the Philippines. So how many places do you end up going before you actually get to where you get processed to be able to come in when you get sponsored?
So we had to go to 3 different places. So first it was the island, and then Malaysia, the main island. And in Malaysia, it's so funny. I don't know why I told you this story, but Malaysians are Muslim, so they don't eat pork. And so there's a big old fence that is from the local people to the refugee camp. And so it's a trust process because I remember I was little, I was tasked to go and get pork. And so my grandma gave me the money and I had to tie it into, rock and then throw it over this fence. And then next thing you know, the meat was thrown over the fence.
Oh my goodness.
And that's how we got it. But it was like, trust the process, right? And choice is trusting the process. And it comes over. We don't know who's on the other side. We don't know if they're going to take off, but we trust and they throw it over.
You were getting sponsored by relatives in the U.S. Had they escaped the same way, or how did they get to the U.S. before you?
Yep, they escaped the same way. My mom's side of the family, which is my aunt and my uncles, they came first. And yeah, they escaped through the boat. So they did the same thing. I don't know who sponsored them. I got to ask them. And then my other side of the family, my dad's side of the family, my aunt, which is his sister, married to an American soldier. So she had gone with him when the Vietnam War ended. So she got to leave before it got closed out. And so she came here first with him and her family. And so they left to go to North Carolina. And then my aunt, which is her older sister, came along with her at that time. And so that's how they were able to be in the U.S. first. So they didn't have to go through the boat like us. They flew over.
Because she was married to that serviceman. And so then did she sponsor you to come? Is that the one?
Yes. So she sponsored my dad to come over, and, we were with him. So that's how we ended up in North Carolina when we came first.
How many ended up there in North Carolina?
That was only us, our family. So my dad, and my brother and my sister, the 3 of us, or the 4 of us with my dad.
So it sounds like once you got rescued, it was almost a year that you were in these various refugee camps waiting to have your paperwork processed. So 3 months on the island, another 3 months in Malaysia. And then what was the purpose of the refugee camp in the Philippines? What were you waiting for there?
We got to wait for our paperwork to get processed and then making sure that we're healthy. And so they were teaching us. We had school over there. So we were learning how to speak English. And I remember our first song that we learned how to sing in English was "You Are My Sunshine." And so I learned how to sing that song in English. And it was, I guess, preparing us to be in the US while we wait.
And how prepared were you? If you started this journey at 7, now years gone by, you're about 8 years old, most likely. What do you remember about landing in the US? Was it a completely different, experience? Did you feel prepared for it?
No, we weren't prepared at all. I just had this little bag I remember carrying. It was a flat, plastic bag, and that's all we had. So I asked my dad a couple of years ago, I'm like, what's in that bag, Dad? And he said, well, it was our x-ray to make sure that our lung was healthy to come into the US. And that's really all we had coming into the US. I said, do we have anything else? He said, maybe a spare outfit of clothes. We don't have anything, So, and that's all I remember carrying was this little bag. And then when we got there, they gave us a jacket because we don't have a jacket. So we all had, this jacket some kind of agency provided us with. So they gave us all a jacket and that's it. That's all we had. And then we got picked up by my aunt, and she has an extra mobile home over there where she lives because she lives out in the country, kind of like. And so we stayed there. Yeah.
There were almost 30 of you that got rescued. So where'd everybody else end up?
Some went to Australia, because they gotta get sponsored. So half of us went to Australia because Australia, they weren't very strict on sponsorship. If you want to come to America, we had to have sponsor.
Have you ever been in touch with any of them since that time? Were you able to reach and be connected with all those people?
Yeah, so because my dad's really good friend, they all went over to Australia. They came to the US and visit us, and he had gone over there and visit them. So we were able to reconnect with them. And then actually the 12-year-old girl that I was telling you about that got taken with my mom. So after we got to the US, we found out that the 12-year-old girl and my aunt got released from being kidnapped. So they let them go after, they did whatever they did to them. And so, they let them go. So they floated back into Thailand. And I think the Thailand people helped them get to the refugee camp over there. So we didn't know anything because we're in the refugee camp. But I think my aunt, she came after 2 years after us because the one that got taken. So there's 2 of them that got released. But my mom and my cousin, we never seen them again. And so the 12-year-old girl ended up marrying somebody over here in the US. They met online back in the days when, online was the first, had AOL. I think back then they got connected with each other. And then she came to the US and stayed over here. So she's been here ever since.
And you're all in touch?
My dad's more in touch with her side of the family because they're his close friends.
Wow. Where's your dad now?
My dad is down the street, maybe 10, 15 minutes away from us.
And so how long did you stay in North Carolina, and how'd you get where you are now?
We only stayed there for maybe 4 months. We came to the U.S. actually on my dad's birthday. And so it was in November, and it was so cold. We couldn't handle it. And my aunt, she said she found a ticket. It was on sale to come to California. And so she hooked us up.
She had a vision. She had a vision for warm weather.
Yeah, so she said, come over here, and bought us the ticket. And so we took off from North Carolina to come to California. We've been here ever since.
So where is the bridge where you end up getting a degree in engineering and making your way to Silicon Valley? What year was that?
When I was 19, my dad always had this teaching, I guess. He tells me, I don't care what you do, as long as you go to school and finish, I will support you. And I knew that in the back of my mind, I always had to finish school because that's embedded in me that, I need to go to school and make something out of myself. We didn't escape Vietnam for nothing. My mom, I see it as sacrificing her life for us to have the freedom. And for me, not to take advantage of the opportunity I have here, be a disappointment for her, So I just start going to school, start going to community college because I had to pay for my own education. I mean, he'll support me by having me stay with him, but he didn't pay for my college, so because he's struggling, he was in survival. He didn't make that much. And so I just went to community college and didn't know what I wanted to do until one day I took this class. It's called intermission because it was in between the winter breaks. So it was like a 3-weekend class, and it was Windows 98 or something like that. And I realized, I actually like this. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But then that sparked an interest in me and wanted to learn more about computer systems and things like that. And that's how I got into wanting to learn more. So I took a vocational school after that to get my degree, my AA in networking administration. So, learning about Cisco routers and things like that, the network technology. And then when I was going to school, I actually got at that time, I had a new boyfriend. And so he found this position for me, system administration and entry level. So he said, why don't you try it? I said, okay. So I went and tried it, and I got my foot in the door with being in IT. So I just went to school while I was going to work full time at University of Phoenix, just because it was more for professionals, and then got my degree from there. I just wanted the degree because I knew that I looked up the job position, and most of it required a degree. So I knew I had to get a degree if I want to extend my career. And that's how I ended up at work and went to school for like 9 years to get that degree.
Wow. That's amazing. And now you're engineering these extraordinary cars. Tell us just a little bit about what you're doing now.
Well, I don't do the programming. We have the robot and artificial intelligence and machine learning. I set up the system, the compute system behind. So we use powerful compute system in order to support the development of the simulations that the robot uses. So because it uses different sensories, it has like the video, which you see the video, but also has different sensories like LiDAR and radar and all those things. And it combined all together to know exactly what's in the way, what's the obstacle. Is it solid or is it rain that I don't have to stop? So for me, I set up those compute resources for our developer to write the code on top of. So I do the back-end system for them to develop on top of.
And the company is called?
Zoox. So, it's exciting right now because we're going to launch in Vegas pretty soon. And right now it's open up for friends and family. So if you want to ride it,
let's go. We're going to take a ride with you. That'd be extraordinary. We would look forward to that.
It just opened up like 2 weeks ago.
Amazing. Yeah. One of my friends just saw it yesterday. I was telling him about what you do. And then he sent a little video. He's like, I see it. It's on this trip.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
So Phuong, let's fast forward to end of 2013. And that's when you found yourself enrolling in ChoiceCenter because you started in January of 2014. So tell us, how'd you get here? How'd you even hear about these trainings? Tune in next week as we continue this powerful conversation with LV136 ChoiceCenter graduate Phuong Huynh.
New episodes of EQU release every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, and ChoiceCenter.com. See you next week.